I want to create my own banner pattern. These banner patterns are perfectly fine, they're just not what I want to do anymore. So how do I do that? Well, I need 6 things to create my own banner patterns. And the first is that I need a texture. This is the texture that I have created, and the reason that it looks like this is that it has to map onto this. This is a creation of my own, where it's like a map of where each thing is. So from this pixel to this pixel, that is the front, that's the back. These are the sides, the left and the right, and up here is the top. But the bottom is not at the bottom here. The bottom is over here. And that's why when you look at the vanilla textures, there is sometimes this weird line up here. And that's because that's actually the bottom. The vanilla textures use 2 colors in their banner patterns. Straight white, that's 6 Fs in the hex with an opacity of fully opaque. And this one, which is F2, F2, F2 with an opacity of 191 over 255. Technically, you can use whatever colors you like and it would work. I just like to be consistent with the vanilla game. 2 more things to keep in mind about the texture is that it must be located at this exact address with no subfolders. Usually Minecraft is very good at letting you use as many subfolders as you like, but in this instance it's a firm rule that they all have to be in that folder. The last thing to keep in mind is this error called bad PNG signature. I'm not an expert on this by any means, but it seems like it has to do with the layers feature. So if I were to flatten this, like get rid of this layer and just save this layer, that's still not going to work. What I need to do is I need to copy and paste this into a fresh file that has never used the layers feature at any point in its history, and then that will save as a PNG. And now it's time to turn the page to the next thing that we need, which is in the data pack, and it's called a banner pattern. The banner pattern JSON is very simple. It goes at this address and it must have 2 things, an asset ID and a translation key. The asset ID knows where to look within your resource pack, so that's the namespace and also what you named the file. And the translation key, it follows this pattern by default, but really you can call this anything you want and it would work. The translation is the next thing that we'll be adding, and we'll be using this translation key for it. The last thing to mention about the banner pattern in the data pack is that it is an experimental feature in Minecraft, which means that the reload command is not going to reload any of that information. It requires a full save and exit from the world, and then you can come back in and it will be reloaded that way. The next thing we'll be looking at is the language file. Your language file is called en_us.json and is located at this exact address. This is in reference to the US version of English. You can use whatever languages you like, however, you should be using the US version of English because I think it acts as a fallback in case your players don't have the language that you have. When you hover over the banner in the game, there will be this translation that appears. And the way that we're controlling what that says is using the translation key, which is these things here, and then after that dot whatever the color is, and then that will come together to form whatever the translation is for that color and that banner pattern together. So for every 1 banner pattern that you have, there will be 16 entries because there's 16 colors. Technically, you could use the give command to give yourself a banner with this pattern, and that would work, and if that's all you've ever wanted, then you're done at this point. However, I'm going to assume that you want players to be able to create banners with this pattern without using the give command. You want players to use the loom, and for that we need the provides banner pattern item component. Item components are things like durability damage and enchantments, things that distinguish items from other items with the same ID. The ability to put an item into a loom and have it provide a banner pattern is another example of a component. But before we do that, we need a tag of banner patterns. Tags are groups of things, like a group of blocks, a group of items, a group of entity types. You can also create a group of banner patterns, and we're going to do that because the provides banner pattern components does not accept individual banner patterns. It only accepts tags. I think that's the only area of the game where you must provide a tag, and individual submissions are not accepted. Thankfully, tags are very simple. It is just a list of things. The tag will go at this exact address, and it will just be like this, and you can have as many entries as you like. Now that we're done with the tags, we can actually use that tags to get a way for players to use the banner pattern themselves. The next part depends on how you want the player to acquire the item that has the provides banner pattern component. You can have them craft it with a recipe, or maybe they already have some item and we're modifying what components that item has after the player has already obtained it. My example recipe here is very simple, a shapeless recipe where the player has red glazed terracotta and a piece of paper, and they craft that together to get red glazed terracotta with the item component. The thing about this red glazed terracotta is not only can I put it in the thing, and normal I can't, but also that it isn't going to stack with the other ones because it's different. And also if I were to place this, I mine it up again, it's going to become normal again. So that's something you want to think about when you're giving players items with components. Another thing that we can do is use an item modifier. So my example item modifier uses this set components function to add the provides banner pattern component. And then we can use the item command to modify the item, although we would have to know what inventory slot the player has the item in. And that's an exercise that I leave to you. So now we can put this all in. And now we have it. So we made the texture. We made it so that the Datapack recognizes the banner pattern. We've got a language file so that the game knows what to call that layer. We made a tag so that we can add a way for players to use the banner pattern themselves, either with a modifier or a recipe, but there are other ways you can add that in, and I leave that to you. But the sixth thing we need is a shield texture. So if you were to add this pattern on a shield right now, you would get this black void shield, and we want to avoid that because that doesn't look all that good. So this is my shield pattern. It looks the way it does because it has to map onto this. Front, back, left, right, top and bottom, just as before, except this time with a shield resolution. I put that shield texture into this exact address, and then when I can combine it with a shield, I'm going to get it exactly as it should be. Let's have a look. Now I will strike fear and confusion into the hearts of my enemies. Mostly confusion. And that's everything you need to add a banner pattern to Minecraft. I have left the Datapack and resource pack examples in the description if you want to use those as a template. But I hope you have a lot of fun creating your own banner patterns. Bye!